welcome. Whether you're watching on the Salem News Channel, listening to any of my wonderful affiliates from coast to coast, or at the podcast, or on my YouTube channel, welcome. Opening today's show in this hour with a very special guest. Attorney General Alan Wilson of South Carolina has been my friend for a decade, since I first met him at the first Republican Governors Association meeting. Subsequently saw him a second time. I've been there twice to talk about endangered species, and that, Attorney General Wilson sought me out. We had a long talk about it. I found out he's Joe Wilson's son, legendary congressman, and he has been elected Attorney General of South Carolina 4 times, big margins of wins, and now he's running for governor. And I'm so glad you're here so I can endorse you on the air, AG. Good to have you, General Wilson. Why are you doing this?
Hugh, first off, thank you for having me on your program. And you're right, you and I have been friends for over a decade. When I was a first-term Attorney General, and I was starstruck, awestruck to be in your presence. And it's great to have been able to be friends with you over the last 10 plus years and to watch your career progress and to be able to do so many wonderful things together. But it's great to be with you today to talk about my vision for South Carolina, but more importantly, our vision for America. President Trump has done some amazing things. He's a once-in-a-lifetime president, someone that I was proud to support. And what he's been able to do at the beginning of this second term is just incredible. And I was proud to be able to be with so many other attorneys general to support him. The first thing that he said he was going to do that I was happy to support is locking down the border. Hugh, I was at the border back in May of this year, and I met with Border Patrol, and they told me that in May of 2023, just 2 years ago, there were an average of 1,500 crossings per day in that 1 mile stretch of the border. In May of 2025, when I was there, they were down to 4 illegal crossings per day. Why is that important? The vast majority of the drug trafficking that comes into South Carolina and other states is coming through the support of Mexican drug cartels, aided by obviously the Chinese government funding, as well as violent extremist gangs like Tren de Aragua, and they're piping this illicit fentanyl, cocaine, meth, heroin into the states in the interior of the United States. And in just one case, we caught and found enough fentanyl to kill 500,000 people, and it all came from south of the border from during the Biden administration. So when I tell people that I'm excited about we have new leadership and management in Washington, D.C., it really is saving lives, and it's making my job as Attorney General here in South Carolina so much more easy.
I also want people to know you're a soldier. You're still in the reserves. I believe you're Colonel. Is it Colonel Wilson? I can call you General Wilson if I'm talking about you're being the Attorney General. I can call you Colonel Wilson if I'm talking about the Army. Give us a quick recap of your military record.
Well, I've been in the National Guard for nearly 30 years, 29 and change to be exact. I'm a colonel, currently serving a National Guard bureau in Washington, D.C. I've served a combat tour. I've led soldiers in combat, and I've been on probably nearly a dozen natural disasters in the National Guard here in South Carolina, which I believe is very important for the next governor to have had military experience, both from the leadership and management point of view, but also understanding that South Carolina sits situated in the middle of Hurricane Alley, and knowing how to utilize and work with the National Guard on day one is going to be so important for the next governor. So that is just one of the things I'm really proud of is my military service. And Hugh, you talked about my father. It's not just my military service. He retired from 30 years of military service, and I have 3 brothers. All of us are commissioned officers. All of us serve in the military, and that's something I'm very proud of.
You know, whenever I met your dad in the halls of Congress going to see someone, he always remembered me. I find that astonishing. What a political ability. I knew his chief of staff pretty well, who's now gone into the private sector. But I've got to tell you, his memory, are you blessed with your father's memory for names and faces?
Well, I don't think anyone will be as blessed as Joe Wilson when it comes to that total recall, but you're also unforgettable, Hugh. I mean, come on, you're famous. Everyone knows Hugh Hewitt, but anyway.
Radio hosts are not really well known. General Wilson, tell me a little bit about the challenges that Carolina faces, because I think you got about 5.5 million people, and lots of people want to move to South Carolina because it's a wonderful place to live. You got great manufacturing down there. What are the big challenges in the state that make you want to be the governor succeeding Governor McMaster?
Well, first off, South Carolina sits nestled right in the middle of the fastest growing region for economic development in the country. That is the Southeast. We have the deepest eastern seaboard port in the country. That is here in Charleston, South Carolina, and it's 52 feet deep. And when you look at South Carolina, it is situated for amazing expansive growth. I look around the Southeast, you go as far west as Texas, Tennessee, Florida have all gone to 0% income tax. Mississippi, Oklahoma, Indiana, West Virginia, Kentucky have all go to 0% income tax. Other states are cutting their taxes by half of what South Carolina's is. I believe South Carolina needs to go and become a 0% income tax state. That is something that I'm committed to doing on day one. I also believe our state has an opportunity to doge our government from top to bottom and from left to right, and to clean up a lot of the fraud, waste, and abuse that is going on at all levels of government, but especially at the state level. And we want to take that savings, the deterred fraud, waste, and abuse, and apply it toward education and infrastructure so that we can make South Carolina ready to receive the economic growth that will come when we unleash the floodgates of prosperity here in our state.
Now, Attorney General Alan Wilson, what is your campaign website? Not your Attorney General website, but your campaign for governor website in South Carolina.
Well, if you want to go learn more about our campaign, it's wilsonforsc.com. That's wilsonforsc.com. You can obviously contribute, donate there. We would appreciate a love offering. But you can also go learn about issues that I'm championing here in South Carolina and what we're going to be doing as we canvass the state over the next 10 months. So, Hugh, it is great to always be on your program. I look forward to coming back in the near future. And thank you for what you do. Like I said, I've watched you for many years and what you're doing across the nation on the radio as well as other things. And so just thank you for the conservative message you're carrying out there.
I appreciate it, but I like my audience to know. Attorney generals of the state make great governors because they've had to deal with statewide issues. I don't know if you're running against any other statewide elected officer, but if you're not, you should have an easy walk in. It'll be a crowded primary. Everyone wants to be the governor of a growing state. Sometimes hard to find a governor when a state is collapsing like Illinois. But South Carolina is booming. So when is the election in 2026, the primary election?
Well, the election is on June the 9th, and if there's a runoff, it'll be on June 23rd next summer. And you said something about AGs made great governors. AGs are the last line of defense for prosperity and also liberty when you consider, Hugh, that we have had to fight back against the Biden and Obama administrations and nearly 300 legal actions. I have been tried and tested not just on the field of combat in another country, but on the political field of combat here in this country. So I'm ready to take South Carolina to the next level, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to sell it to the South Carolina citizens.
I have seen you fight for property rights, for religious liberty, for the rights of children to be free from victimization. I've seen you fight to keep jobs for American citizens and legal migrants. I've watched it because you sign all those briefs, you bring all those lawsuits. I don't know how many lawyers have worked for you, and what have you been? Have you been the AG for 15 years?
This January will be 15 years. When I was elected, Hugh, at 37, I was the youngest Attorney General in the United States of America. Now I'm the Dean of Attorneys General, so now the longest serving, but still one of the youngest.
Well, I wonder, if you look back at all those, what case sticks out the most? What controversy did you weigh into that you like to tell people about? This is when I was on the front line working for South Carolina.
Well, I mean, obviously working closely early in my first term with people like Pam Bondi, who's now the U.S. Attorney General, and other AGs when we fought back against Obamacare and Dodd-Frank and a lot of those early encroachments by the Obama administration. Obviously, getting away from constitutional issues, there was the Alec Murdaugh trial, which was a very famous trial that captured the nation. There's been a lot of documentaries, but spending 6 weeks prosecuting that case was certainly notable to me and my team.
So in terms of going forward with the cooperation with ICE and with the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, will South Carolina remain a law-abiding state under Governor Wilson, like with Governor McMaster, and help the country apprehend people in the country illegally, or will it go the way of the sanctuary city stuff?
Well, first off, there will be no sanctuary status here in South Carolina for violent illegal aliens, and we're going to make South Carolina a lawful, law-abiding state. We're going to work with the Trump administration to get the people who should not be here out of this state. We're going to continue to protect women and girls in private spaces as well as their sports teams, and we're going to continue to defend the rule of law and prevent the federal government from encroaching on states' rights.
My last question comes from my friends at the American Legislative Exchange Council. They track school choice every single day. Where's South Carolina on that? What does Alan Wilson think about school choice?
I'm a big proponent of school choice. I believe that more options to more families gives children greater opportunities for success in the long term of their life. When you look at children's testing at third grade, you can determine where a child's trajectory will be in the long term. So school choice for as many families as we can provide and as early as we can provide. Early 4K, giving children reading comprehension, phonics, and math comprehension, training and testing at the earliest ages possible is going to set them on a trajectory for success for the rest of their life, and it's going to help elevate South Carolina as a state as well.
Well, I'm so honored to endorse you. Glad to have you here. I hope people go to Wilson, FORSC, Wilson4SC, which stands for South Carolina.com, WilsonFORSC.com. Get in the game, South Carolina, or if you're anywhere in the country and you want a great conservative as the governor of South Carolina, you just saw him there if you were watching on the Salem News Channel or heard him on the radio. Alan Wilson is the man. Thank you, General. Talk to you soon. John Ashbrook joins me. He is, of course, one of the four horsemen of the Ruthless podcast. Left to right on your radio dial, it's Josh Holmes, followed by Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, and this man, John Ashbrook of Cincinnati, Ohio. And John, before I get to anything else, I'm going to congratulate you on the Fox contributorship and all that. But before we do, how's Fragile Joe Burrow doing? I'm always worried about the Bengals, that their quarterback's going to be hurt before the season begins. How's he doing? Is he wrapped in styrofoam?
Well, he's no less weird, Hugh. However, my dad was at the practice yesterday, and he told me he was 24-27, looking great. He's got an incredible set of wide receivers he's going to be throwing to, and I have a feeling that Joe Burrow and the Bengals are going to be doing great things this year.
You know, did you tell your dad that 7-on-7 without pads is not really football? That's flag football, and it's really not the same thing. Every time he gets hit, he gets hurt, doesn't he? That's the problem with Fragile Joe Burrow.
That's the problem. And, you know, in Cincinnati, we have a great tradition of an offensive line that doesn't protect our quarterback quite as well as we would like them to do it. But we've got one quarterback. Cleveland Browns now have 6 with the acquisition of Tyler Huntley yesterday. So I guess 6. you got more than you need.
All right, we may come back to the Browns, and we will definitely talk about them in the first game of the season. But let me go to your joining Fox News. The Ruthless podcast got joined up with Fox News. So you and I are contributors. Did anyone give you the rules on being a Fox News contributor?
They did, but you know what? There's nobody better to delineate those rules than the man himself, Hugh Hewitt. So
that's unwritten is that they've got the Supreme Court rules, which is the youngest justice answers the door and gets the coffee for the other justices. Okay. Until you guys signed, I was the most recent contributor, so I'm no longer the rookie on the contributor team. You are, and since you sit, Holmes, Smug, Duncan, Ashbrook, I think that makes you the guy in charge of answering the door and getting the coffee, doesn't it?
I'll also wash your car, Hugh. You just let me know when I need to be at the house and how many coats of wax you want. I'll do anything.
What I need is input. I have an idea which I want to pitch to our friends at Fox, which is the Fox News charity softball game. And it would pit anchors and full-time journalists against contributors. You know, Brett Baer would definitely bat cleanup. That man can hit a golf ball a million yards, so I assume he can hit as a softball. Guy Benson and I are going to be in the booth, maybe with Smug, because Guy used to call. Did you know he used to call the Cape Cod Baseball League in the summer in every sport at Northwestern?
I actually didn't know that, but I'm not surprised to hear it. The guy's very talented.
He was very funny on your program today. So I got the booth. What position will you be playing, John, on the contributors team?
I'll either be a DH or I'll be in right field, and I'm very comfortable in both of those spots.
What about Holmes and Duncan?
Holmes is a pitcher. In softball,
is he?
It'll be softball is a little different. I mean, he was sort of a junk ball pitcher, left-hander in high school. He had this like 12-6 curve that would just fall right off the table. Duncan, we could put Duncan at first, I think.
Does he know baseball? He's a soccer guy. Does he know anything about baseball?
He is a soccer guy, but we could teach him how to catch and throw. And I think that
you couldn't teach me how to catch and throw. I was laughing today when I was listening to you guys talking about the president's physical fitness. The only thing I can do is run. I can't golf. I can swim pretty well as well. But I wasn't traumatized. Tell people about that discussion today. It was very, very funny on the Ruthless podcast.
Well, we had a great time, and as you know, we had Guy Benson on the show, and he is just a terrific personality. You know him very, very well, Hugh, and there's never a dull moment when he is on the show. But we talked about everything from Trump to what's going on in Congress to what to make of the Democrats and Mamdani and everything that's happening with their party. There was an awful lot to listen to. I encourage everybody to check it out.
I do too. And in fact, when you signed with Fox, I was very happy because all they asked you to do was one more show, right? You just do a Friday show now. So where do people get to watch it? They can still see it on YouTube, like and subscribe if you wish to opine. But where are they using it on the Fox platforms?
So they're using it on all of their platforms, all of their channels, and you're exactly right that we are not changing a single thing about our show. The thing that they loved is what we brought to the table to begin with. And so all they wanted us to do was more. And we added a third show, and I have a feeling down the road we're going to maybe add another one, but not going to break that news here today.
Oh, come on, John. Give me something. You're a Brent Bengals fan. Let me ask you about the rules change. You guys are all veterans of the Senate. You actually know what you're talking about. That's why the Ruthless podcast is both informative and funny. And I like the games. I like the hard pivot. I like King of the Hill. I like Journalist or Dumb. I like all the games, but I really like it when you go deep inside baseball. I have heard from members of the Senate that they've had it with Chuck Schumer on nominees, and when they come back on September 3rd, they're going to use the nuclear option to blow up the 2 hours of debate on every nominee who comes to the floor. Have you heard that, and how radical is that, if it's radical at all?
So I actually have not heard that about the rules change that they're looking at for September. So you're a little bit ahead of me on that. But the fact of the matter is, Schumer is not doing his part. Democrats are supposed to be working with Republicans to make sure that the new president has the nominees in place to be able to conduct the work of government. And one of the things that's interesting that a lot of people don't really understand, it's sort of in the weeds of Senate procedure. One of the things people don't know is that Democrats actually have the ability to nominate people to boards and commissions who come from the Democrat side of the aisle. So some of these boards and commissions are made up by law, made up of Republicans and Democrats. And from my understanding, the Democrats have not submitted names of Democrats to serve on these boards and commissions as has done in the past. So what Democrats are doing is very different from recent history. You know, in the first go around for Trump, Democrats submitted those names. And when Obama was president, I know that Republicans submitted the names of people who should be on these boards and commissions. And I don't understand for the life of me why Democrats aren't taking advantage of the opportunity to sort of negotiate with Trump. Obviously, he's a great deal maker, and this is a guy who will make a deal with people. I mean, just look what he's done with Europe. Look what he's done with all these trading partners around the world. The guy cuts deals, and he's very, very good at it. And I don't know why Democrats aren't pursuing the opportunities that are in front of them to actually get some deals with Trump. It seems to me like they're more interested in having a talking point than actually having a government that works in the way it should.
Now, I've been watching politics since '76, so the statement I'm about to make covers a long time. It's the craziest the Democrats have ever been. They have never been this left-wing, not under Jimmy Carter, not under Walter Mondale. For as long as you've watched politics, have they ever been this left-wing, John Ashbrook?
No, I've never in my life heard of them nominating a Ugandan communist to be the mayor of New York. I mean, I think that there are so many proving points, but maybe none more on point than that. I think the idea of this guy, Mamdani, is sort of taking their party by storm. And you saw Elizabeth Warren out there yesterday praising Mamdani, saying that the rest of Democrats nationally need to adopt what Mamdani is saying in New York if they want to win. I mean, that's absolutely ludicrous. She's talking about grocery prices. She has the temerity to make an argument that Democrats believe in affordability. And of course, we know after living through 4 years of Joe Biden that affordability is the last thing on their minds. And one of the things that I'd like to point out to you,
we're out of time, Ashbrook. I got to teach you guys the rules of radio. You guys, when the music comes, you got to go. But John Ashbrook on X, go follow the Ruthless podcast. Listen every day and go Brown. I want to welcome our new audience in North Carolina on the Outer Banks. The Nag's Head is the home station for WPZR 93.2 FM, I believe, and it's the home for Salem Radio now, all over the Outer Banks, and I love Nag's Head. Glad that we're on down there. Welcome. I also want to tell everyone, in my family, we got 3 kids and 3 in-laws, and we make a habit, Fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I do, of sending them alerts about every phishing scam, phishing, that comes around. I got one from my son-in-law today. He said, boy, a good one from allegedly AT&T showed up in my email box. Just want to alert everyone, do not click on the AT&T. They've got it really down. In fact, bogus malware, phishing, all that, it's growing exponentially. It's all designed to get you to give your identity away, to let people steal your identity theft. And identity theft occurs every 1 to 2 minutes in the United States. So here's what I want to talk to you about. Webroot, webroot.com/Hewitt. Webroot.com/Hewitt will take you to 2 different packages, either Webroot Total Protection or Webroot Essentials. Different price points, different things that you can examine, but start by going to webroot.com/Hewitt. You get real-time antivirus protection against malware, against ransomware, and against phishing scams. And boy, do we get a lot of phishing scams, plus a firewall and a network monitor, the Web Threat Shield to block bad websites before you even click. You also get a password manager if you wanted, a system optimizer, identity protection with advanced dark web monitoring, and $1 million in reimbursement for stolen funds. If anyone cracks the code and gets into your money, Webroot has a policy. They'll give you back $1 million. Right now, you'll get 50% off total Webroot Total Protection. That's at webroot.com/Hewitt, the Total Protection package, or 50% off webroot.com/Hewitt, the Webroot Essentials. But it all starts at webroot.com/Hewitt. And I hope you'll think about it. I was thinking about it today when my son-in-law sent me that thing about AT&T. I'm very suspicious of texts and emails, and I don't often answer a lot of them. I do answer and try and read everything from subtexters who are writing me at the universe, and that's a very lively exchange, and no one puts bad links in there or malware. Nevertheless, stuff happens, and you don't want to be the person that it happens to. So please get protected. Get webroot.com/Hewitt. Speaking of protection, I got to take my relief factor for a simple reason. The all 7 grandchildren are away from my brother-in-law's house today, and that means it's kind of a quiet day. I like that. But I did 3 miles with my grandson, my oldest grandson today. Not 6, just 3. He's young. We had a good time, good chat. We walked past some crazy signs I had to explain to him. Lefties with crazy signs are often angry. Say a prayer for him whenever you see one like that. But I didn't tell him to take relief factor because you got to be in high school before you even worry about this. But when you're my age, you definitely need relief factor. If you're watching on the Salem News Channel, you see me taking it. A little sip of Trader Joe's water and down it goes. A little bit hoarse, yelling at grandkids to stop running and stay away from the street and all the kind of stuff that grandparents overreact about. But I'm mobile and I'm nimble because of relief factor. 4 ingredients. They're all natural. Icarian and curcumin, resveratrol, omega. You take 1 pack every day, but the starter pack for 3 weeks costs only $19.95. $19.95. You can take 3 a day for the first week, 2 a day for the second week, 1 a day thereafter. You'll feel much better, and the minor aches and pains will go away or heal up because it helps your body's anti-inflammatory system. Call 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief, 1-800-4RELIEF, or go to relieffactor.com. Find the quick start for $19.95 and get in the game. The quick start is the best start. You want to do that. Consumer Cellular is my last sponsor of the hour. 1-800-411-4454. 1-800-411-4454. When you go to consumercellular.com/Hugh, H-U-G-H, you'll get the special if you use my code HUGH25, which is $5 off your first 5-month bills. Now, they really are aimed at people who are 50 and older, because people who are 50 and older typically have way too much cell phone usage. They buy too much data. You really don't need an unlimited plan. But if you want an unlimited plan, you can get 2 lines, if you're over 50, you can get 2 lines with unlimited data for $60 a month. That's a huge savings, $30 a line, unlimited data, 2 of them. You can get up to 10 devices on that. Do not do anything other than go to consumercellular.com/Hugh. or 1 800 411 4454. Use Hugh25, my code 1 800 411 4454. That music means David Drucker is in the house, senior political writer for The Dispatch. He's been covering politics as long as I have. David, welcome. Last week we talked about the Senate races in Georgia, in Maine and in North Carolina. This week I want to cover Michigan, Georgia, Minnesota, and New Hampshire. Let's start with Michigan. Mike Rogers is going to be the Republican nominee. He came this close 2 years ago. What do you think in 2026?
Well, look, Michigan's a swing state. It'll be competitive if he's running in an environment that favors Democrats. I'm sorry for the siren in the background there. If he's running in an environment where the atmosphere favors Democrats, it might be a little bit harder for him. President Trump is not on the ballot. That can make a difference in turnout, but this is going to be a very expensive race, very hard fought race, and I expect it to be very close.
Now, do the Democrats have anyone that's been selected for whom they've cleared the field, or is it a three-way punch-out like the Republicans have in Georgia?
They haven't cleared the field, and so we'll have to see who emerges there. I mean, they have at least one candidate that they like, I believe a sitting congresswoman. Don't quote me on that. But that's a state where they do have a good infrastructure. They've got a good network. They still have a lot of union support on the ground, even if union votes have shifted a lot. So they should be in good shape there, but we'll have to see how their primary shakes out.
Yeah, what's interesting, Mike Rogers running for the second time back to back is always a good sign. I remember Leader Thune lost his first race for Senate, came right back and beat the sitting majority leader of the Senate, Tom Daschle, because you learn stuff and you keep learning stuff as you go around the state. People remember you and they get on board. So I'm very bullish on Mike Rogers. In Georgia, I think John Ossoff, the Democrat incumbent, is sort of an accidental senator. It's about 25. I'm not sure he shaves yet. But they got to come up with a candidate. They got former football coach Derek Dooley, big name in Georgia. They got Buddy Carter, who's a congressman, and they got Mike Collins, who's a congressman. I do not have a favorite in this race. Who do you think is the most formidable challenger for Ossoff?
I don't think we know. What I would say is Republicans in Georgia and connected to Georgia politics like to caution their fellow Republicans that John Ossoff is more formidable than they may think, that he's in a better political position that they might presume. And so it'll be interesting to see who the primary produces. Now, Governor Brian Kemp I don't know if it's known that Governor Brian Kemp is backing Derek Dooley, former head coach
Oh, I didn't know that.
of the Tennessee Volunteers. And like the last time there was an open seat where a Republican emerged from a primary and won the Senate seat, Dooley is an outsider, hasn't run for office before. That was the case with David Perdue. But Mike Collins and Buddy Carter are both in the race. Both are Trump allies, and Trump has not made any endorsement. One of the things, Hugh, I've noticed with a lot of these primaries as they're beginning to form for Republican nominations is that, there's the primary for voters and there's the primary for the Trump endorsement. And I think the Trump endorsement is going to go a long way in Georgia, whoever he picks.
Now, let's go up to New Hampshire. I drove down 2 weeks ago to have breakfast with Scott Brown, and he's tan rested and ready. And he said he came this close when he ran, I guess, 12 years ago. Then he went off and became Donald Trump's ambassador to New Zealand. And he's back in the Granite State where he was born and working. He's been working for 12 years. Mostly he coaches high school girls basketball now. But everybody in the restaurant knew him. Everybody knows everybody in New Hampshire. What do you think of that race? It's an open seat. Probably going to be running against Jake Sullivan. No, not Jake Sullivan's wife. I'm not sure who is running. It's a congressman, a younger guy without much of a record who's pretty liberal. What do you think?
Look, I think it's a tough race for whoever the Republican nominee is. I mean, Scott Brown is a sort of figure in his own right. But New Hampshire has been tough out. New Hampshire has been tough for Republicans outside of the governor's race, right? I mean, Chris Sununu, the former governor, because they have 2-year terms for governor, won 4 consecutive races. Then Kelly Ayotte, the former senator who lost re-election in 2016, succeeded him. So that's 5 consecutive gubernatorial victories for the GOP. but Republicans have not won either a presidential contest or a Senate contest in New Hampshire since Kelly Ayotte in 2010. And so it's a tough race, but New Hampshire is kind of swingy. We'll see if any other Republican gets into the race in New Hampshire for the Republican nomination. My sources tell me that could happen. And we'll see if the Democratic favorite is the nominee there or if somebody else emerges.
Don Bolduc, who was their nominee 2 years ago, very conservative, he's endorsed Scott Brown. Like I said, Scott Brown was a Trump ambassador, so I assume the president will come in for him at some point. Let me switch over to the last one, the long shot. Minnesota. It's an open seat. It's a little deep red dot in Minneapolis, and the rest, a deep blue dot, and the rest of the state is red. And that has been that way for as long as I've been on the radio. I've been on the radio in the Twin Cities for 25 years. Deep blue dot, everybody else red. I know someone who's going to get into the race. I think it's a good candidate. Can't say it yet. It hadn't been made public yet. Do the Democrats have someone in Minnesota, that's been anointed to replace Tina Smith?
Not to my knowledge. And just keep in mind, and I know Hugh, you know this, but just for listeners and viewers, it's a rather big blue dot in
it's a big blue dot,
Twin
yeah.
Cities, because of the
County.
suburbs have trended Democratic as well in the Trump era, even as all those rural areas in the Iron Range have pretty much gone red. So, this is one of those states that if you get the right candidate, and you have the resources, and you get a little help with the atmosphere, you might be able to pull off a surprise. But again, this is as well as I do. Republicans have come close a couple of times, but outside of the governor's mansion and that one victory by Norm Coleman back in the day, I think that was 2002, if I'm not mistaken. Republicans haven't had much to crow about in statewide races. So, but we will see. There's always that race that things turn the other way again. We've seen that on both sides of the aisle. So, it's definitely worth watching.
6 years ago, it was Ed Gillespie. He got no help from anyone, and he almost beat Mark Warner. This time, I think Minnesota is the new Virginia. We will watch it closely with David Drucker from the Dispatch. Follow David online at David M. Drucker. Thank you, David. Rachel Maddow did it again last night, said something so extraordinarily stupid that I cannot ignore it. Cut number 14.
The thing we were all warning about for the last few years is not coming, it is here. We are in it. This is what it likes, it turns out. This is what it's like, right? It's August, it's a Monday, every day the sun rises and the sun sets, and there are, sports and movies, and there are new hit songs, there are scandals here and there are crimes. There's everybody's personal quotient of family drama and health worries and money worries and falling in and out of love and in and out of faith. Life has not stopped, and none of our personal lives have stopped. But also, at the same time, life in the United States is profoundly changing, is profoundly different than it was even 6 months ago. Because we do now live in a country that has an authoritarian leader in charge. We have a consolidating dictatorship in our country. And it sounds melodramatic to say it, I know, but just go with that for a minute, right? Think in melodramatic terms. Think in cinematic terms. Imagine the cartoon-level caricature of what you think a dictatorship looks like. It's secret police, right? A massive, anonymous, unbadged, literally masked, totally unaccountable internal police force that apparently has infinite funding, but no identifiable leadership. And they act in ways designed to instill maximum fear and use maximum force. When you imagine an authoritarian country, right, what you imagine is masked secret police breaking people's car windows and snatching people off the streets and out of church parking lots and courtroom hallways and taking them away with no charges, no notice, no paperwork, no explanation, not letting them see lawyers, and then moving them secretly to what are effectively black site prisons, where they won't tell you who's there and where no one's allowed in to see what's going on.
That is nuts. She's talking about ICE, of course. She's talking about the fact that the Immigration Customs Enforcement is rounding up the 10 million people who were criminals, the criminals among the 10 million people who Joe Biden let in. And ICE is wearing masks when they do that because of crazy left-wing fanatics who are doxing them. It's absolutely bonkers. I'm going to be on Sean Hannity tonight, and I have to think between now and then how best to put maybe that Rachel Maddow is having a breakdown because MSNBC is going to get spun off. Her ratings are terrible. But I've often wondered, Rachel has never come on this show. She wrote a book. I read the book. I was ready to, it was a terrible book. It was about United States defense. It was full of errors. I've only been on one show with her, Meet the Press. I think she issued an edict at NBC when she used to have power at NBC. She doesn't anymore, that she wouldn't appear on shows with me because I listen to nonsense like that and I just sit back and say, well, that's nonsense. That's ICE. ICE has been doing their job for decades in the same way, and the detention centers are the same one that were run by Biden and Obama in the first Trump presidency. Nothing is different this time, though. We're not an authoritarian regime with an empty-headed, dilapidated president. We have an elected president who won every swing state and who is sending people away who need to be sent out of the country legally, subject to court review, subject to mandamus proceedings, subject to habeas petitions. Rachel doesn't know that because Rachel isn't a lawyer. Rachel is a desperate television personality whose best years are behind her. President Trump opened today on the CNBC network talking to our Squawk Box friends. Before I go to the audio of what was a very interesting interview that the president gave to Joe Kernan and company, let me review the markets brought to you by American Federal. They just closed. If you're going to buy gold, AmericanFederal.com is where you buy gold. AmericanFederal.com, 1-800-221-7694, 1-800-221-7694. And if you're going to sell gold, you do it with American Federal because Nick Grovich and his team have been in the business for 44 years. They are trustworthy, they are honest, they are above board, they are completely transparent and explicit. So let's talk about how much gold you want to buy. Let's talk about what the price is today. Let's make sure you know prices change on a daily basis, indeed on a minute-by-minute basis, because gold is traded around the world by the minute. The gold market never closes. And let's talk about my commission so you know how much more you're going to have to pay above the strike price of the gold. The more you buy, the smaller your commission. The reverse is true. The more you sell, the smaller your commission. And lots of people have sold a lot of gold to Nick Grovich and his team over the years. They do coin collecting and specials like that for those in that small niche market. But if you're just looking to diversify the assets that you own, stocks, bonds, cash, dirt, meaning a home or a rental or an investment property, and then some precious metals, gold or silver. I prefer gold. You can put a lot of gold in a little space, a safety deposit box, and so if you buy it every year, every quarter, every 6 months, do it from Nick Grovich and his team at American Federal, 800-221-7694. Down day on the markets today. Dow is down 0.14, S&P down 0.4, NASDAQ down 0.65 after being up almost 2% yesterday. Expected a little bit of a pullback. Meanwhile, gold went up again to $3,434 an ounce. $3,434 an ounce. Last week it was $3,320 an ounce. So it's had quite a run this week. I don't know that demand is going anywhere. I think the world wants to add to its gold reserves. It's not retail customers like you and like me that are driving up the price of gold. It's central banks are buying gold. They want to buy gold for the era of tariffs, for the era of American resurgence in terms of dictating the world economic order, for conflict with China, for all the different things that are out there. AmericanFederal.com. You can trust Nick and his team. 800-221-7694. Now, Donald Trump. I want to go to cut 10 because he's talking here about the Texas, quote, legislators who fled the state rather than do their job. Cut number 10.
You know, somebody gave a good example. In Massachusetts, I got, I think, 41% of the vote. It's a very, blue state. And yet it's got 100% of Congress, 100%. So I got 41% or something. And yet 100% of Congress in Massachusetts. No, it shouldn't be that way. We should have a couple of Congress people, but we have none. And think of this, 100%. In Illinois, where you have probably the dumbest of all governors, Illinois, that guy is really the business is flowing out of his state. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing that Pritzker's doing. He was the black sheep of the family. They threw him out of the business. But in Illinois, what's happened is terrible what they're doing. And you notice they go to Illinois for safety, but that's all gerrymandered. California's gerrymandered. We should have many more seats in Congress in California. It's all gerrymandered. And we have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
I don't know. I have to check on that, and they expect.
Check it. Why don't you check it, Brian?
The fact checkers expect us to check everything you say on the phone.
I want you to
but
check
for
it. 4
years, those fact checkers didn't fact check anything that was said about. We don't need to relitigate that either, but they expect fact checking
Joe, why don't you
immediately.
check it, okay? Because
Okay.
I'd like you to. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, okay? By a lot.
By a lot, I think he's talking about raw vote totals, not percentage, but I really don't care if it's correct. He did win big in Texas. Now, he also talked about Jerome Powell and interest rates, cut number 6.
Let's
Just
move
not
on to
believe
this.
it.
Which number do you believe at this point? Because if you noticed, suddenly the chances of what you've wanted for months and argued for months, the chances of a rate cut soared because of these numbers. Do you not believe the current numbers because they're playing right into what you want the Fed and Jay Powell to do? They're not horrible, as you said, but perhaps with the tariffs, some businesses delayed some spending. Some consumers may have been less certain about the future. So maybe we're seeing a slight slowdown in labor, but you're going to get exactly what you want based on these numbers. Which ones do you believe? Do you not believe the revised numbers either?
It's not what I want. I don't want that. I wanted it a year ago. I wanted it a long time ago. Jay Powell is highly political, and I think, I call him too late. Jerome, too late. Powell, he's too late. He's too late always. He always has been, except when it came to lowering interest rates before the election, that he did. He worked that out.
Who would you replace him with? I know you watch the show occasionally, and we had an extended interview with one of the prospective replacements, Kevin Warsh. Were you watching that day, or
I was. He's very good. He's very good. He's very good. Sometimes they're all very good until you put them in there, and then they don't do so good. But a lot of them, I think he's a very good guy. I think I say Kevin and Kevin. Both Kevins are very good. And there are other people that are very good, too. But,
Kevin's
a lot of
times, I don't know if that's good.
A lot of times, they're very good. Like this character that we have in there now, Jerome Too Late Powell, he was very good. He said, "Sir, I'll keep interest rates so low. I'm a low interest rate person, sir." You could hardly hear him talking over the desk.
Is Warsh
somebody that worked for me was a big fan of his. Not a fan of his. He hardly knew him, but he wanted him so badly. I did somebody a favor. I put him in there. No, he's too late. He's too late. That name will stick to him.
Can you handicap it at all?
Yeah, it will stick to him because he is too late. And the market's getting ahead of him now. The Treasury, 10-year Treasury note is at 4.2%. That matters because it is the note on which most 30-year fixed mortgages are built. And now that brings me to our sponsor, AndrewandTodd.com. AndrewandTodd.com are a branch of Sierra Pacific Mortgage. That means they're lenders. They lend you the money. They underwrite the loan to buy a house, a second house, a house for your mom and your dad who are older. They'll do reverse mortgages for senior citizens who are 62 years older and living in their principal residence. They will also do HELOCs, home equity line of credit loans. They will also do ARMs. They will get you into the house. If you're a veteran, you don't want to put any money down. They do VA loans. And if you are a first-time home buyer and you qualify for FHA, you don't have to put as much money down. Again, they do that. But mostly they do 30-year fixed mortgages, and they help you from soup to nuts. They help you do the application. They help you clean up your credit. They help you figure out what the most you should be paying on a mortgage is. They let you know what the terms are, and more importantly, when interest rates drop, and they will drop because the economy is doing fine. And we got a massive private sector stimulus underway with the AI arms race pouring trillions of dollars in the American economy. So for a couple of years at least, the economy is going to be great and the interest rates are going to drop. So at 4.2%, I'm sure you'll get a rate in the 6s, maybe even the 5s. I'm not sure. You might be able to get an ARM, an ARM, buy it down a couple of points for 30 years. It's a complicated process. Do it with someone you can trust. Now, I've been friends with Andrew Del Rey for 25 years. I'm in a Bible study group with him still. I've known Todd Avakian for half as long. They've been sponsors for 10 years. Please call them first. 888-888-1172. 888-888-1172. They've been sponsors of this show for so long. I can't even remember when they started sponsoring this show. Thousands and thousands of my audience, those who watch on the Salem News Channel, those who listen in the radio network, Salem Media Radio Network, all of our affiliates who carry my show. Thousands of you have gotten your loans with andrewandtodd.com, and I have never had one complaint. Not one complaint. When I come back, I'm going to go out to Colorado and cover a grisly murder from 1981 with the brother of the victim, because the murderer is up for parole, and 2 members of the Colorado Parole Board want him paroled, so that means it's going to the 9-member parole. He signed a plea deal. He was going to get the death penalty. He signed a plea deal. Life imprisonment, no parole. Now he wants parole. I wanted you to hear about this from Tim when we come back. Do not miss that interview. In the meantime, remember, over at HughHewitt.com, there's a banner that says Help Texas. All the people in Texas still suffering from the floods of July 4. It's been a month. Please consider calling 855-359-4673. 855-359-4673, making a tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor, which is sponsoring this campaign. 855-359-4673. More of you donated yesterday, so you're finally waking up. Gosh, this is going to be over soon. The opportunity is going to close to send help to the hill country of Texas. 855-359-4673. Every now and then a story crosses my field of vision that I just want to stop and say, huh? And this is one of them. In November of 1981, a young man, Michael Jeffries, was abducted by 4 really rotten, terrible people, including Anthony Fiorella. He was walked up a mountainside. He was stabbed 65 times. Eventually, his throat was cut. He was murdered. And Fiorella pled guilty for life in prison without the possibility of parole in exchange for not having to face the death penalty, because it was cold-blooded, premeditated murder. He's gone through a half dozen parole hearings where he's trying to get out of jail 40-plus years later, and his brother joins me now, Tim Jeffries. Hello, Tim. I'm so sorry for your loss 40 years ago, but I'm glad to have you on. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Abundant blessings to you, Hugh. Thank you so much for the opportunity to give voice to this unfolding injustice.
Would you tell us where the parole board meeting is and when it's being held and what the situation looks like?
There was the 11th parole hearing on July 15th, and 2 members of the parole board recommended parole for the remorseless murderer. And we remain in an absolute state of shock as a result. But as a result of their recommendation, it now goes before the full parole board of the state of Colorado on August 15th. It's a 9-member board. Obviously, 2 people already support it. So of the remaining 7, they only need 3 votes, but we need 5 of the 7 votes. And that is indeed a tall order, given who appointed them.
Now, Tim, this was a cold-blooded execution of your brother. He was stabbed 65 times, and then, as I said, he wasn't dead. And Anthony Fiorella then cut his throat to assure that he would be dead. And he did a plea deal, right? He was going to be tried with a death penalty, but he did a plea deal. Am I right about that?
That's correct. As you know, murderers, rapists, the felonious tend to be cowards of the worst sort, preying on the innocent. And that is indeed what they did on my big brother. Thankfully, they found Michael in the Rockies, all sorts of miracles regarding that. And the folks were apprehended. One of the murderers committed suicide, so murder got him into jail, murder got him out. And Fiorella although he claims he has remorse, does not have real remorse. And the fact that he fled the scene, the fact that he's not had remorse, to us further underscores why he took a plea deal to avoid a very vigorous death penalty prosecution.
So I'm curious about the Colorado board. Do they have a standard for reversing because a plea deal to avoid a death penalty charge is the hardest thing in the world to get out of. And if you go to life without parole, you're not supposed to get parole. And the 9 people can't put themselves back into 1981. What argument is Fiorella making, or his attorneys making?
Well, first I'll point out to your listeners and viewers that every 30 minutes in America, someone is murdered. So during the course of this program, someone will be murdered on average. Every day in America, upwards to 50 people are murdered. The murders aren't just the big sensational murders we see in the news. They're happening every day, and they've been happening for years. Michael was murdered 44 years ago, and we've been dealing with this remorseless murderer literally for 44 years. Now, with the recommendation that he be paroled, which remains absolutely shocking, if not an absolute insult to Lady Justice, who not only has the balancers, but has a sword. There are 11 criteria that the Colorado Parole Board must review in assessing whether or not he's worthy for parole. And the best we can tell, and we're pretty honest, faithful folks, he doesn't meet 7 of them. So how he's even at this point is, it's not only beyond comprehension, it's brutal re-victimization.
Of course it is, and I when I saw the Menendez brothers getting a retrial for parole, I thought this is wrong. Everyone knows it's wrong. It encourages people to murder, and those 9 people should not have a political career if they vote to release your brother's killer. Are they appointed by the governor, Governor Polis?
They are. 2 of the 9 are law enforcement representatives, so we're hopeful we'll have 2 anchors for our plea, and they will be pleas, desperate pleas. But the bulk have been appointed by Governor Polis, and I think it's fair to say that Colorado is a much different state than it was last century.
Well, he wants to be president, and he's not going to be president if his parole board lets murderers out of jail after they do plea deals to avoid the death penalty. Tim, is there any place that the public can go to register their opinion on this? Is there a website? Is there a parole board inbox or anything like that?
Yes. First, we have a Facebook page, Deny Parole for Anthony Fiorella. And there's a tab that people can press, and it automatically sends a letter. There is a website with the Department of Corrections, and it'd probably be best if perhaps I could provide that to you, and you can post
Please.
it, because it's a bit laborious.
Go ahead.
I will definitely get that to you.
Oh yeah, you get that to me. In the meantime, you get that to me. I'll post it on X, and in the meantime, I want people to go to Deny Parole for Murderer Anthony Fiorella on Facebook. Deny Parole
That's
for
correct.
Anthony for Murderer Anthony Fiorella. Tim, thank you for taking time with me today.
Yep.
Thank
you so much. And
Yes.
A prison chaplain told us long ago, most convicts find Jesus in prison, but most of them leave Jesus in prison. Fiorella has earned several religious degrees, but he still remains of a hardened heart, up to including he's hell-bent on re-victimizing this family. And as you know,
I can't believe they're putting you through this. I really can't. I've got to run, Tim, but we will get that posted, and I'll make sure people know about it by August 15th. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it very much. I also appreciate the people in this audience who will no doubt go and visit Deny Parole for Murderer Anthony Fiorella. They'll also go to my website for Help Texas. I bet this is the last couple of days I'm asking for help for the people in the Hill Country. Or call 855-359-4673. 855-359-4673. Make a donation. We got a couple days left. 855-359-4673. Half dozen of you called yesterday. One made a $500 contribution. Thank you to that anonymous person. All of you out there who have contributed for the last month to those suffering in Texas, thank you. HughHewitt.com. The button Help Texas is at the top. President Trump joined our friends at Squawk Box early this morning. China came up, and they're getting close to a deal. I sure hope it includes freedom for Jimmy Lai. Here is what President Trump had to say this morning about the deal with China. That is imminent, cut number 11.
We have a very good relationship, but I didn't call for the meeting. He called for the meeting. So the fake news announced Donald Trump wants a meeting with China. No, I didn't want it. No, he asked for a meeting, and I'll end up having a meeting before the end of the year, most likely, if we make a deal. If we don't make a deal, I'm not going to have a meeting. I mean, what's the purpose of meeting if we're not going to make a deal? But we're getting very close to a deal. We're getting along with China very well. I will tell you, you had a point when I had 145% tariffs on. I put in for fentanyl. I actually said to people, where are we now with China, by the way, because I kept adding more and more. They said, sir, are you up to 145%? I said, you got to be kidding. So I sort of had to bring it down a little bit. But when it was up to 145%, meaning we were doing zero business with China, China was collapsing. I don't know if you know that. You haven't reported it, if you do. But China was collapsing. China is very reliant on the United States. My relationship with him is very good. I think we'll make a good deal. It's not imperative, but I think we're going to make a good deal. But no, they had a thing that Donald Trump really wanted to go there. No, I don't. It's a 19-hour flight. It's a long flight. But at some point in the not-too-distant future, I will. And just to end this conversation in China, I have a very good relationship with President Xi. Always had, other than the COVID moment where I was very angry with him and essentially didn't want to talk to him, frankly, because, it did come out of Wuhan, in all fairness, which I was saying from the day one. I was saying I knew exactly where it came from. But that did interfere with the relationship. But no, I've had a great relationship with President Xi. We respect him a lot. They respect us a lot. They didn't respect Biden. They thought he was a numbskull. They couldn't believe he was the president of the United States, and neither can anyone else that happened.
Now, he also mentioned that he's coming down on Putin very hard. He gave Putin a chance to settle the war. Putin is not interested in settling the war, cut number 12.
With India, what people don't like to say about India, they're the highest tariff nation. They have the highest tariff of anybody. We do very, very little business with India because their tariffs are so high. So India has not been a good trading partner because they do a lot of business with us, but we don't do business with them. So we settled on 25%, but I think I'm going to raise that very substantially over the next 24 hours because they're buying Russian oil, they're fueling the war machine, and if they're going to do that, then I'm not going to be happy.
I love hearing that because people who buy Russian oil are indeed fueling the Russian war machine. Now, the president got great clarity on this. Remember the Russia hoax? He brought that up, by the way. He said, cut number 8.
The Justice Department now tapping a grand jury to look into the intelligence community's assessment of what was happening with Russia. Is that you have nothing to do with directing the Justice Department?
No, I have nothing to do. Pam is doing a great job. I have nothing to do with it. I will tell you this. They deserve it. I was happy to hear it. I actually read it just like you did. I have nothing to do with it. But what they did in the election, what they did in even the last election, but it was too big to rig. But what they did in the 2020 election is grotesque.
It was too big to rig. Remember my 2004 book, If It's Not Close, They Can't Cheat. They could not cheat in the last election. I'm in the Relief Factor studio. I want to remind you, as I do every hour, I took my Relief Factor in hour number 1 on the air. You could watch it on the Salem News Channel. It's sort of a highlight of many of the Tribbles Day for the newcomers in North Carolina. Tribbles are people who have been listening to me for 25 years, usually members of the universe, frequently not sober. But some of them are in good shape because they take Relief Factor and they get out there and they move. They get out there and they get to the gym, they do their miles, they get their miles in. They lift grandchildren or children all day long. It's for everyone of every age. If you're an adult, it's an all-natural supplement. I carry in curcumin, resveratrol, and omega. The starter pack is so cheap, $19.95 for 3 weeks. That's less than $1 a day. You take 3 packets of Icarian curcumin, resveratrol, and omega on every day the first week, 2 the second week, 1 the third week. Enough will be in your system to help your anti-inflammatory system get rid of those minor aches and pains, whether it's tennis elbow or a bad back or a cranky knee or a cranky calf, whatever it is that bothers you, the minor aches and pains. Don't let life be slow for you. Live life fast. Live life with Relief Factor. Call 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief. 1-800, the number 4 and the word relief. Or go to their website and find that starter pack at relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show. Sober analysis here. We don't get too excited. We don't get too down. And Byron York follows the same path at the Washington Examiner, where he's chief political correspondent, and on Fox News, where he's a Fox News contributor. Hello, Byron. How you doing in August?
Doing well, Hugh. How about yourself?
I'm great, but I have to play for you, Rachel Maddow. I apologize in advance. I don't do this very often to subject my guests to this, but I need your assessment of this captured quote, cut number 14.
The thing we were all warning about for the last few years is not coming, it is here. We are in it. This is what it likes, it turns out. This is what it's like, right? It's August, it's a Monday, every day the sun rises and the sun sets, and there are, sports and movies, and there are new hit songs, there are scandals here and there are crimes. There's everybody's personal quotient of family drama and health worries and money worries and falling in and out of love and in and out of faith. Life has not stopped, and none of our personal lives have stopped. But also, at the same time, life in the United States is profoundly changing, is profoundly different than it was even 6 months ago. Because we do now live in a country that has an authoritarian leader in charge. We have a consolidating dictatorship in our country. And it sounds melodramatic to say it, I know, but just go with that for a minute, right? Think in melodramatic terms. Think in cinematic terms. Imagine the cartoon-level caricature of what you think a dictatorship looks like. It's secret police, right? A massive, anonymous, unbadged, literally masked, totally unaccountable internal police force that apparently has infinite funding, but no identifiable leadership. And they act in ways designed to instill maximum fear and use maximum force. When you imagine an authoritarian country, right, what you imagine is masked secret police breaking people's car windows and snatching people off the streets and out of church parking lots and courtroom hallways and taking them away with no charges, no notice, no paperwork, no explanation, not letting them see lawyers, and then moving them secretly to what are effectively black site prisons, where they won't tell you who's there and where no one's allowed in to see what's going on.
Byron, what do you think of that?
Well, as I was listening to this, first of all, it's kind of classic Rachel Maddow. I think we should tell the listeners that this is the kind of stuff she says all the time. But I was thinking about another story you may have already discussed, the town hall that Representative Mike Flood, the Republican from the 1st Congressional District of Nebraska, held last night.
I have not discussed that, but go ahead.
And
tell people.
It turned out he faced a very, very angry, aggressive audience of all Democrats. And so one of them gets up and calls him a fascist. And he says, I just don't think a fascist would be here at the town hall taking your question. So I was kind of feeling, and she said, well, our personal lives haven't changed under this dictatorship. And you thought, well, under a lot of dictatorships, personal lives really did change. Obviously, in Nazi Germany, personal lives changed. People were killed. People were displaced. People lost their livelihood. Personal lives changed. And so she's having to make this argument saying that, everything may seem to be fine in your life, but we're under a dictatorship now, and everything is different. But it's just not. But I have to say, this is very popular with MSNBC. If I remember correctly, they paid Maddow, I think, $35 million a year when she cut back on the number of programs that she did. And then she allegedly took an enormous pay cut to $25 million a year. So this is something that's actually pretty valuable in the progressive world, and she's at the top of the heap.
Well, I don't know if it will, if she can carry that weight when it's spun off from NBC. They're going to sell MSNBC as a standalone, and I don't know. It's going to be like Stephen Colbert. They lost $40 million a year, and I don't know how many people it takes to produce the Maddow show. But I just want to go to the serious charge that we are in a consolidating dictatorship. Of course we are not. That's the stupidest thing I think I've heard a major network figure say in 20 years. A consolidating dictatorship is what Hitler did with the Night of the Long Knives in 1934, when he killed everyone who was his opponent. And that was a consolidating dictatorship. This is not that. This is a good old, grand old republic, democracy. Trump won all the states. He won big. Do you think it's a mental issue, or is it just a ratings-driven hysteria?
But even with his victory, I mean, there's stuff Trump can't do. He's trying to get judges on the federal courts of appeals, and the Democrats in the Senate are saying no, and they've been pushing and pushing and pushing, but he still hasn't gotten them, which is a very sort of undictatorship kind of thing to happen. So I just think this is part of the rhetorical world of the resistance. And they all say the same thing. Rachel Maddow does it on MSNBC, but they say it in other forums as well. And it doesn't actually matter what's actually happening or not happening in this case.
Well, that's it. It's fantasy. And so people who live in fantasy worlds often attract other people who live in fantasy worlds. And here's my serious point. ICE has been around since 2002. Before that, it was two agencies, Immigration and Naturalization Service and Customs. The people who do dangerous jobs, and the level of violence against them and the number of attacks being directed against them is on the rise. Is it responsible for anyone on a major network to demonize them as the secret police?
I think that's a great point to make. Now, I'll have to tell you, I don't like this idea of a lot of police going around not in uniform or in masks. I also don't like the kind of paramilitarization that we've seen of a lot of police forces across the United States, a lot of it with federal dollars. On the other hand, you're absolutely right about the ICE job, and the people that ICE are targeting are people who are in the United States illegally, most of whom have committed an additional crime to entering the United States illegally, and most of whom have been given fully adjudicated deportation orders. So due process was pursued here, and it's a dangerous job. And I will say it was on July 4th, and I think we've talked about this. The assault on ICE in Prairieville, Texas, with AR-15s and lots of guns. This is a dangerous job.
And this rhetoric makes it more so. Byron York, follow him on X at Byron York. Read him in the Washington Examiner. See him on Fox News. Thank you, Byron. I like attorneys generals for the state. They do real jobs if they're good. They get stuff done if they're good. Alan Wilson is the Attorney General of South Carolina, and he is declared for governor, and I have endorsed him. Alan Wilson is smart, effective, has won 4 times statewide. I want to crush all the Democrats that we possibly can. I want a landslide in South Carolina. So I want Alan Wilson to win, and I've known him for a decade because I used to go to the Republican Attorney General's Association, the RGA, the RAGA, whatever they call it is, Republican Attorney General. I can't remember. RAGA, Republican Attorney General Association, RAGA, that's it. And I would do my lectures on endangered species. In fact, I have a column at Fox News today about the Endangered Species Act, about what President Trump, Doug Burgum, and the new director of the Fish and Wildlife Service can do to actually take a whole bunch of species and subspecies off the list tomorrow They've got to take off every species that was listed because of projections in decline of critical habitat. It's not science, it's guessing, and it's political, and it's never in the Endangered Species Act. It wasn't intended to work that way. But I'm going to replay my interview with Attorney General Alan Wilson from the opening of the show at the opening of the next hour, so everybody in South Carolina driving home gets to hear from their next governor early. Also want to tell you about Americans for a Balanced Budget, sponsor of this program. Americans for a Balanced Budget are very concerned about making sure the economy works for everyone and the debt goes down. One thing they are running right now is StopHealthCostHikes.com. All one word, StopHealthCostHikes.com. StopHealthCostHikes.com. What this is about is preserving tax credits for people who were forced by the Obamacare nightmare into the state exchanges. Happened to millions of Americans. They had a company plan. The company stopped covering people. They went to 990s. They had a union plan. The union plan got disqualified under the rules against platinum plans, or the union went belly up and the company closed. They were forced into the individual exchange. They're not 65 yet. They can't get Medicare. They're not poor. They're working. They're not eligible for Medicaid. And so they have to go. And they're not a veteran. They can't get the VA. They're not retired from the military. They can't get TRICARE. So they have to go to the Obamacare exchanges, which are wildly expensive. Now, one of the things Republicans have done in the past, and I hope they do again, and StopHealthCostHikes.com will assure, is that Americans continue to get credits on their taxes. If they're paying taxes and they are been obliged to head into the individual healthcare exchanges for individual policies, this ridiculous program set up by President Obama, which is not working and is eating away at the health of Americans, we can at least give them the tax credits that they've been getting for the 10 years since Obamacare messed up our healthcare system. So head over, please, to StopHealthCostHikes.com. Reject higher costs. StopHealthCareHikes.com. StopHealthCostHikes.com. I get it wrong at least once a read. StopHealthCostHikes.com. Welcome, whether you're watching on the Salem News Channel, listening to any of my wonderful affiliates from coast to coast, or at the podcast, or on my YouTube channel. Welcome. Opening today's show in this hour with a very special guest. Attorney General Alan Wilson of South Carolina has been my friend for a decade, since I first met him at the first Republican Governors Association meeting. Subsequently saw him a second time. I've been there twice to talk about endangered species, and that, Attorney General Wilson sought me out. We had a long talk about it. I found out he's Joe Wilson's son, legendary congressman, and he has been elected Attorney General of South Carolina 4 times, big margins of wins, and now he's running for governor. And I'm so glad you're here so I can endorse you on the air, AG. Good to have you, General Wilson. Why are you doing this?
Hugh, first off, thank you for having me on your program. And you're right, you and I have been friends for over a decade. When I was a first-term attorney general, and I was starstruck, awestruck to be in your presence. And it's great to have been able to be friends with you over the last 10 plus years, and to watch your career progress, and to be able to do so many wonderful things together. But it's great to be with you today to talk about my vision for South Carolina, but more importantly, our vision for America. President Trump has done some amazing things. He's a once-in-a-lifetime president, someone that I was proud to support. And what he's been able to do at the beginning of this second term is just incredible. And I was proud to be able to be with so many other attorneys general to support him. The first thing that he said he was going to do that I was happy to support is locking down the border. Hugh, I was at the border back in May of this year, and I met with Border Patrol, and they told me that in May of 2023, just 2 years ago, there were an average of 1,500 crossings per day in that 1 mile stretch of the border. In May of 2025, when I was there, they were down to 4 illegal crossings per day. Why is that important? The vast majority of the drug trafficking that comes into South Carolina and other states is coming through the support of Mexican drug cartels, aided by obviously the Chinese government funding, as well as violent extremist gangs like Tren de Aragua, and they're piping this illicit fentanyl, cocaine, meth, heroin into the states in the interior of the United States. And in just one case, we caught and found enough fentanyl to kill 500,000 people, and it all came from south of the border from during the Biden administration. So when I tell people that I'm excited about we have new leadership and management in Washington, D.C., it really is saving lives, and it's making my job as Attorney General here in South Carolina so much more easy.
I also want people to know you're a soldier, You're still in the reserves. I believe you're Colonel. Is it Colonel Wilson? I can call you General Wilson if I'm talking about you're being the Attorney General. I can call you Colonel Wilson if I'm talking about the Army. Give us a quick recap of your military record.
Well, I've been in the National Guard for nearly 30 years, 29 and change to be exact. I'm a colonel, currently serving in National Guard Bureau in Washington, D.C. I've served a combat tour. I've led soldiers in combat, and I've been on probably nearly a dozen natural disasters in the National Guard here in South Carolina, which I believe is very important for the next governor to have had military experience, both from the leadership and management point of view, but also understanding that South Carolina sits situated in the middle of Hurricane Alley, and knowing how to utilize and work with the National Guard on day one is going to be so important for the next governor. So that is just one of the things I'm really proud of is my military service. And Hugh, you talked about my father. It's not just my military service. He retired from 30 years of military service, and I have 3 brothers. All of us are commissioned officers. All of us serve in the military, and that's something I'm very proud of.
You know, whenever I met your dad in the halls of Congress going to see someone, he always remembered me. I find that astonishing. What a political ability. I knew his chief of staff pretty well, who's now gone into the private sector. But I got to tell you, his memory. Are you blessed with your father's memory for names and faces?
Well, I don't think anyone will be as blessed as Joe Wilson when it comes to that total recall. But you're also unforgettable, Hugh. I mean, come on, you're famous. Everyone knows Hugh Hewitt.
Well,
but anyway,
radio hosts are not really well known. General Wilson, tell me a little bit about the challenges that Carolina faces, because I think you got about 5.5 million people, and lots of people want to move to South Carolina because it's a wonderful place to live. You got great manufacturing down there. What are the big challenges in the state that make you want to be the governor succeeding Governor McMaster?
Well, first off, South Carolina sits nestled right in the middle of the fastest growing region for economic development in the country. That is the Southeast. We have the deepest eastern seaboard port in the country. That is here in Charleston, South Carolina, and it's 52 feet deep. And when you look at South Carolina, it is situated for amazing expansive growth. I look around the Southeast, you go as far west as Texas, Tennessee, Florida have all gone to 0% income tax. Mississippi, Oklahoma, Indiana, West Virginia, Kentucky have all go to 0% income tax. Other states are cutting their taxes by half of what South Carolina's is. I believe South Carolina needs to go and become a 0% income tax state. That is something that I'm committed to doing on day one. I also believe our state has an opportunity to doge our government from top to bottom and from left to right, and to clean up a lot of the fraud, waste, and abuse that is going on at all levels of government, but especially at the state level. And we want to take that savings, the deterred fraud, waste, and abuse, and apply it toward education and infrastructure so that we can make South Carolina ready to receive the economic growth that will come when we unleash the floodgates of prosperity here in our state.
Now, Attorney General Alan Wilson, what is your campaign website? Not your Attorney General website, but your campaign for governor website in South Carolina.
Well, if you want to go learn more about our campaign, it's wilsonforsc.com. That's wilsonforsc.com. You can obviously contribute, donate there. We would appreciate a love offering. But you can also go learn about issues that I'm championing here in South Carolina and what we're going to be doing as we canvass the state over the next 10 months. So, Hugh, it is great to always be on your program. I look forward to coming back in the near future. And thank you for what you do. I've watched like I said, I've watched you for many years and what you're doing across the nation on the radio as well as other things. And so just thank you for the conservative message you're carrying out there.
I appreciate it, but I like my audience to know. Attorney generals of the state make great governors because they've had to deal with statewide issues. I don't know if you're running against any other statewide elected officer, but if you're not, you should have an easy walk in. It'll be a crowded primary. Everyone wants to be the governor of a growing state. Sometimes hard to find a governor when a state is collapsing like Illinois. But South Carolina is booming. So when is the election in 2026, the primary election?
Well, the election is on June the 9th, and if there's a runoff, it'll be on June 23rd next summer. And you said something about AGs made great governors. AGs are the last line of defense for prosperity and also liberty when you consider, Hugh, that we have had to fight back against the Biden and Obama administrations and nearly 300 legal actions. I have been tried and tested not just on the field of combat in another country, but on the political field of combat here in this country. So I'm ready to take South Carolina to the next level, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to sell it to the South Carolina citizens.
I have seen you fight for property rights, for religious liberty, for the rights of children to be free from victimization. I've seen you fight to keep jobs for American citizens and legal migrants. I've watched it because you sign all those briefs, you bring all those lawsuits, I don't know how many lawyers have worked for you, and what have you been? Have you been the AG for 15 years?
This January will be 15 years. When I was elected, Hugh, at 37, I was the youngest Attorney General in the United States of America. Now I'm the Dean of Attorneys General, so now the longest serving, but still one of the youngest.
Well, I wonder if you look back at all those, what case sticks out the most? What controversy did you weigh into that you like to tell people about? This is when I was on the front line working for South Carolina.
Well, I mean, obviously working closely early in my first term with people like Pam Bondi, who's now the U.S. Attorney General, and other AGs when we fought back against Obamacare and Dodd-Frank and a lot of those early encroachments by the Obama administration. Obviously, getting away from constitutional issues, there was the Alec Murdaugh trial, which was a very famous trial that captured the nation. There's been a lot of documentaries, but spending 6 weeks prosecuting that case was certainly notable to me and my team.
So in terms of going forward with the cooperation with ICE and with the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, will South Carolina remain a law-abiding state under Governor Wilson, like with Governor McMaster, and help the country apprehend people in the country illegally, or will it go the way of the sanctuary city stuff?
Well, first off, there will be no sanctuary status here in South Carolina for violent illegal aliens, and we're going to make South Carolina a lawful, law-abiding state. We're going to work with the Trump administration to get the people who should not be here out of this state. We're going to continue to protect women and girls in private spaces as well as their sports teams, and we're going to continue to defend the rule of law and prevent the federal government from encroaching on states' rights.
My last question comes from my friends at the American Legislative Exchange Council. They track school choice every single day. Where's South Carolina on that? What does Alan Wilson think about school choice?
I'm a big proponent of school choice. I believe that more options to more families gives children greater opportunities for success in the long term of their life. When you look at children's testing at third grade, you can determine where a child's trajectory will be in the long term. So school choice for as many families as we can provide and as early as we can provide. Early 4K, giving children reading comprehension, phonics, and math comprehension, training and testing at the earliest ages possible is going to set them on a trajectory for success for the rest of their life, and it's going to help elevate South Carolina as a state as well.
Well, I'm so honored to endorse you. Glad to have you here. I hope people go to Wilson, F-O-R-S-C, Wilson4SC, which stands for South Carolina.com, Wilson, F-O-R-S-C.com. Get in the game, South Carolina, or if you're anywhere in the country and you want a great conservative as the governor of South Carolina, you just saw him there. If you were watching on the Salem News Channel or heard him on the radio, Alan Wilson is the man. Thank you, General. Talk to you soon. Joined by former Congressman John Campbell. Before he was a congressman, John Campbell was a state senator in California, a state representative in California. He's responsible for California's woes because he served so long in Sacramento that he comes on in penance once a week with me to try and make up for everything that he did to California when he was in the legislature. I think that's a fair summary, John, of your career. Would you tell people, by the way, you're a car guy, and I'm not a car guy. And so would you explain to people how to tell a car guy from a pseudo car guy? I don't know anything about cars. I buy used Lexus, and I keep them for 15 years. I'm the opposite of you. How do you tell a real car guy?
If they have passion for certain cars, and if they only want cars that have character or something that excites and interests them. There are plenty of cars out there that are like refrigerators. They're appliances. They do the trick. They do they take you from place to place. They don't break. They're fine. But car guys don't buy those kinds of cars. And car guys, by the way, is a unisex term. Barry McGuire of McGuire's Car Care Products many years ago said that there are car guys and you can be a female car guy, but they're all one. There's not all car guys. Anyway, so if you have a passion for cars, you get excited by cars, you buy cars that excite you, the brand, the character, all that kind of stuff excites you, you're a car guy. If you just buy a vehicle to transport you from one place to another and comfortably and without breaking down, you own a car, but you're not a car guy.
That was a very long way of saying if you own an electric Mustang, you're not a car guy.
You're not a car guy. And so I agree, but what I want to know about car guys is can you be a one car car guy?
Yes, you can. Oh, absolutely, you can. Yeah, you can have one car, and you know, when you rank the things around you, you know, there's your car, your children, your wife, your house, you know, stuff like that. So if you rank it like that, then you can be a one-person car guy. Yes, there are people who have one car, or in many cases two. Haggerty Insurance, which is a the Haggerty family created the collector car insurance market. They're out of Michigan. Oh, I don't know, 30 years ago or 40 years ago sometime. Created that. A lot of people insure collector cars now, but they kind of started it. And I think, I don't know, they have 600,000 or 700,000 customers. And something like 70% of them have one collector car, just one. And so they may have a daily driver that they drive to work and back and the market and so forth. But they have one collector car that they have that they're totally passionate about. But most of them, it's just one. So,
but car guyism is a kind of a disease. And I've observed you over the years that it's progressed, and you bought more cars and you sold cars and you bought more cars. And I think terminal stage is when you go to car shows that are far away, which is what you're doing next week. That's my long wind-up. I'm on vacation next week, and for my vacation, I sit around and go on long runs and play with the grandkid. You go to a car show. So would you agree that's end stage car guyism?
Well, yes, I suppose I would call it the pinnacle of car guyism rather than end stage. End stage sounds like there's so much finality in that. And so, yes, and by the way, I'll be going to the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, which is the Super Bowl of car shows. And it's on one day, it's a week, it's on Sunday, not this coming Sunday, the next Sunday. But it has spread, it is now a whole car week. There are like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 events every day, Monday through Sunday, in Carmel, Monterey, Pebble Beach, up there in that general vicinity in Central California. So
now, I have a very serious question.
Yeah.
Where do people park at a car guy show? Because most of the parking is taken up by the vehicles that arrive on flatbed trucks, right?
Yes, but there's parking around. There's parking around, and oftentimes it's a long ways away, and you have to get a shuttle bus to go in. That's the case at Pebble Beach. So unless you are privileged enough to have a parking pass, which I do because I know a judge who has a parking pass, so I'll use his parking pass. But
is that allowed? Is that legal?
Well, yes, because he goes with me, you see. So
okay,
it's legal. It's all okay. But you know, as the captivating Mrs. Campbell often tells people when people will come up and say, well, "What do you think about John buying all these cars? And he does all this stuff with these cars, and he does that." Captivating Mrs. Campbell's answer is always, "Well, better he collect cars than girlfriends."
True, absolutely true.
To which I respond, "It's also cheaper." So.
It's very much here. Now, my question is, when was the last time you changed a tire?
Oh, my God. Decades.
So my theory is correct. Car guys don't always work on cars. You don't work on cars.
I do not, because I'm a mechanical idiot. If you bring a screwdriver and a hammer to me, I can't tell you which one is which. I am absolutely a mechanic. You would not want me working on yours or mine or anybody else's car. What I do is I maintain them. So I do all the cosmetic. Nobody washes my cars. Nobody waxes my cars. Nobody puts ceramic coating on my cars. I do all that. So that I can do, and that is.
You've never offered to do it for my car. Even after you ruined California.
What's the point?
Yeah, that's the truth. What is the point? I've never ever gone. I don't wash my cars. You know that, and I think it's wasted labor. I think it's all kind of a ROI. The return on investment on the labor is low. Is the return on the art market has fallen apart? All right, so the art market, all the billionaires bought a lot of art, and it's all fallen apart. Has the car market collapsed in recent years?
It has not. It stopped going up, and I follow a lot of metrics in that regard. And, you know, there are some a lot of art is more expensive than cars, but we have had a few cars trade for over $100 million lately. So
what?
you can have some, yes, some very, very expensive cars. The cars that have traded for north of 50 million are generally either Ferraris, Mercedes, or Bugattis. That's a lot of, and a lot of them have a racing history or that sort of thing. But there's a lot of very expensive cars, not no $300 million cars yet, but very expensive cars. And then obviously you can buy a nice clean collector car for $10,000 too. That maybe is a Mustang that they built 1 million of, but people kept them and took care of them, etc. And so the market's very wide, but generally speaking, it's holding up. It's stopped going up, and it was just marching up for some years now, but it is not going down yet. It hasn't collapsed yet. Now there will be 4 or 5 auctions up in Pebble Beach next week, and there will be, I don't know, 1,000 or so cars auctioned off, 1,000, 2,000, and you often get a feel for that at that time.
All right, so here's your, during the break, because I'd like to hold you over if you will stay with me, I'd like you to make a list of car guy movies, because this is, I saw F1. Have you seen F1?
Of course I saw F1 like the day it came out.
Okay, so I want to know what you thought about F1, and then I want to know what movies float the boat of car guys, who are both men and women, by the way. Car guys is a comprehensive term, as Congressman Campbell described. But when he comes back, I want to know what he thought of F1 and other movies that float the boat of car guys. John Campbell is with me, Congressman John Campbell, formerly on the House Finance Committee. But today I just want to talk about being a car guy, because I saw F1 last week, and I liked it a lot, didn't understand a lick of it, and I wanted to set the whole thing up so that you could tell us why you liked that movie, because it appealed to me for nothing to do with the cars, but because of the drama between the drivers. So why did you like it?
Right, and first of all, you are one of a number of people I know that I've talked to who have never seen an F1 race, don't know anything about F1, never heard of the damn thing, but they liked that movie because of the story, and the character development and so forth. One of the great debates amongst car guys about car movies is it about the racing and the accuracy of the racing, or is it about the story? And so a lot of car guys will tell you that the very best car movie is Steve McQueen's Le Mans, which I believe was 1970 or 71, which had hardly any story at all, but a lot of very great racing scenes and a lot of accurate racing scenes. And so people will love that. But, and with this F1 movie that just came out, there are some critics in the car world saying, well, we saw a few bits of it that really aren't completely 100% accurate. And it was like, can you change tires during a red flag? Well, no, you can't. And they did in the movie. So a few inaccuracies like that. But to me, it was a great story. It was very entertaining. It was very accurate, not perfect. I mean, not every single thing they did was right, but very accurate. I mean, they made it very much like F1 really is. And I thought it was great, and I think it's done well, and I think most car guys are liking it. A few are criticizing it. To me, that it is a worthy successor to what I think was the greatest car guy movie prior to this, which is Grand Prix from 1966, a Frankenheimer movie with James Garner. You saw that movie, Hugh?
No.
You never saw
Not
Grand
my
Prix?
kind of movie. No.
Oh my gosh. My father took me to see it at the Cinerama Dome in Hollywood in 1966. I had just turned 11. I saw it a couple of times, and they filmed it in Cinerama. You should look that up. It is how they made that movie.
Is that what made you a car guy? Or did your dad make you a car? What I'm really getting at, what makes a car guy a car guy? Your dad.
My dad made me a car guy, but my brother wasn't that much, so it doesn't stick with everybody. But Grand Prix was a great movie. The Captain Mrs. Campbell will tell you her favorite car movie is the Yellow Rolls Royce. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I saw Herbie.
Yeah, well, Herbie the Love Bug, I saw that. I actually went to the premiere of that at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles with my dad back in the day. But the Yellow Rolls Royce, I think, was a 50s movie, and it is about the car. And the car goes on for many years through many owners, and it follows the different owners of this car.
I do have a favorite. I have a favorite car scene, which I have to tell you about before we run out of time. It's in Rat Race. Have you seen Rat Race?
No, I don't know what Rat Race is.
All right,
Oh,
John,
you
I'll make
saw
you a
Rat
deal.
Race.
I'll make you a deal. If you watch Rat Race, when they go to the Barbie Museum, if you watch Rat Race, I'll watch Grand Prix, all right?
I'm writing down. When was Rat Race?
2001. It was a month before 9/11 happened.
Okay.
And there's a great car scene.
One of the best
didn't
car
see-
scenes ever in it.
Okay. I didn't see many movies that. The other car movie people talk about is Bullet because of the car chase.
I've seen Bullet. But no, John Lovett's in Rat Race as the greatest car scene ever. So
Okay,
if you watch
you
that
have-
tonight, we can talk about in 2 weeks.
All right, deal. I'll watch that, and you watch Grand Prix. And I know you are a follower of the cinematic aspects of movies. It's really, really well done. Good story too.
Well, I don't know
character.
the theater to which you refer. I know Grumman's, but I don't know the
The
cinema.
Cinerama Dome. Oh, the Cinerama
No,
Dome.
we have 1 minute.
The Cinerama Dome had this big expanse of screen. It went on. You had to film things in Cinerama back at the time to show something at the Cinerama Dome, and it was big and round. I think it's still there in Hollywood, and but I don't think anybody makes movies to fill up the entire screen. It's the biggest screen you've ever seen, and it wrapped around you. There you are, Cinerama, and there's part of Grand Prix that they're showing for those watching on Salem TV Network.
Salem News Channel, we aim to please. So I'm going to watch
Yeah.
that. You're going to watch Rat Race, and we're going to compare notes in 2 weeks after our mutual vacation. My best to the captivating Mrs. Campbell. Enjoy your trip north, and we will talk. But notice how much of California has been ruined since you joined the state legislature on your drive north, okay? Just pointing that out. It's terrible. That music means Lilacs is in the house, as in James Lilacs, lilacs.substack.com. If you want to get everything Lilacs, go to lilacs.com, including the Diner, his fabulous podcast. But the Substack is at lilacs.substack.com. James, it's August, so our conversations in August will not be about serious things. They will be about light things. So I have 7 questions for you. Question number 1. Do you have any thoughts on the new Superman?
Not yet because I haven't seen it because I'm not a Superman guy. But that said, I want to see if there's any life left in the superhero genre as it is, because as far as I'm concerned, it's played out, dead. It doesn't interest me in the least bit. It's hard to get me to go to the Fantastic Four movie. I've been a Fantastic Four, guy since I was a child. So yeah, I will eventually see it because from what I understand, the best thing about it is the dog.
Well, I don't understand anything, but the only other comic book guy I know, John Schroeder, loved it. Ben Domenech, who's younger by John by 25 years, hated it. So there's a division in the Superman world. I will go because I've got a 10-year-old grandson. So I will go. Number 2.
Okay.
Have you seen and do you have thoughts on Landman?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I think it is an appalling show. It is remarkably sexist. It promotes all sorts of bad behavior. It has a ridiculous attitude that actually encourages fossil fuels, and it's probably my favorite show of the last year.
Okay, that's mine too. Now, how many seasons can they carry this on for?
As long as Billy Bob can stand upright, smoke that cigarette in his inimitable way, and issue a sarcastic rejoinder to somebody who believes that renewables will conquer all, I can go for 10 years as far as I'm concerned. I'll watch that guy in anything.
Did you know about Sheridan until Landman or Yellowstone or 1873 and 1920? You did?
1923, 1817, 1492, and I believe there's one set in the Neanderthal area and perhaps the Pleistocene. Yeah, I did, and I was somehow immune to it. But then I watched Tulsa King, which I believe is one of his programs as well, in which Sylvester Stallone comes back and acts like Sylvester Stallone as a mobster, and I loved it. Loved the dialogue, loved the characters. But Landman was the first Tyler product that I really got into, and it was just different than everything else that I'd seen on television because it wasn't so completely worried about being correct. He was afraid to be incorrect against the grain of so many people, shall we say.
I think he's reopened studios' eyes to the idea that they can make a profit by entertaining people. Yeah. So let's hope. So. Next, there are 2 retro movies coming out. One is out, one is coming out. Naked Gun with Liam Neeson. What do you think?
Well, I'm a big fan of Leah. I'm a big fan of Leslie Nielsen because A, I stood next to him in a urinal in a Phoenix golf course, and B, the cover of my second book was shot by the same one who shot his first book. And his pictures were all over the studio. And so we have a deep bond between the urinal and the shared space of a photography studio. And I loved him because of his ability to just effortlessly channel the old world deadpan man into a comic value. He was just great at it. I don't see Liam in the role. From what I've seen, let me put it this way. It may be that some of the jokes don't land. It may be that it's hit or miss. It may be that it's a little bit too silly and they keep throwing a bunch of stuff at you and maybe only 75% of it works. But that's enough. Just a silly comedy at this point is enough.
It's August, yes. And that brings me to the one movie the grandkids want me to take them to, Freakier Friday, which is a sequel to a movie made 20 years ago, Freaky Friday. I am resisting this. What do you say?
I think it was Lindsay Lohan at that point, but Freaky Friday, the remake,
Yes.
I believe, is a remake of something that goes back even more to the 70s, back to the period when the only Disney movies that came out were not fun cartoons, but horrible things in which Kurt Russell was a computer who wore tennis shoes and Herbie the Love Bug and the rest of them, and some dog who went across the country to return a magazine. And so I think it's from that Disney period. I could be wrong. The whole switching thing, mom's in child's body, child's in mom's body, is catnip to little girls. Guys, kids, if it's a boy version of that and the boy finds himself in his dad's body, he may just actually go down and enlist. Just try to join the Corps or something. And when they finally do the switching, dad finds himself in SEAL training or something, hyperventilating in a little jetty somewhere. So yeah, no, I'm
All right,
not
so
on my
now,
list
because
here, but good luck.
Since everything retro is back, including Naked Guns, Freakier Friday, question, could a variety show work again?
Absolutely so. And there are two ways of doing it. One, you actually can do it with contemporary artists and you do it with fun. And by fun, I mean you actually act as if you're entertaining the people, as if it's not some grim slog through some emo song and somebody's bent over the microphone with their hair obscuring their eyes and they're wailing about the troubles of the world. That's not what a variety show is about. It needs skits. It needs stupid skits. It preferably needs Cher draped over a piano. I mean, there's the whole genre back there waiting to be done. So either do that and do it in a genuine fashion, or revive the corny, awful, horrible, wince-inducing variety shows that have the Brady Bunch out there do the hustle, which are so mortifyingly cringy bad people would tune in just to watch contemporary celebrities humiliated in the old form.
I asked this because I attempted again to explain to the next generation Andy Williams, which led me down the path to try to explain Carol Burnett and Glenn Campbell and Sonny and Cher. It's very hard to explain to the youngs. How would you explain this format to them?
Somebody comes out and pretends to sing a song, and then they go to a little skit where somebody's wearing a Western costume and they have some stuff, and the laugh track comes in to tell you it's funny. And then there's a commercial for Folgers, and then there's a commercial for Palmolive. You're soaking in it, says Madge. And then they come back, and there's another song, and somebody you really kind of like comes on and sings not the song they want to sing, but the song on the radio. And then there's another skit, and then maybe perhaps somebody at the end of it comes out and acts really sincere as if there's an actual audience there and thanks everybody for coming. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Garish lighting, bright stuff, mod clothes, bell bottoms, the whole bit. Not really all that funny, but it keeps your attention for an hour and you see a whole lot of people act. That's it.
And very last question. Did you watch Laugh In religiously?
I did because I was a child and had no taste whatsoever. It's an awful show. It's a dreadful show. There's not a single line in there that stands up today. But as a cultural phenomenon, it's something else. It brought the blackout, burlesque kind of stuff back to television. Rowan and Martin were actually talented guys, and I like both of them for what they did. But it had a cultural impact that was beyond anything that we can imagine today. Who could have a show like that today that consisted of a woman in a bikini gyrating with mod catchphrases written all over her body, and at the same time, then they cut to the President of the United States. When Nixon did Laugh In, the culture changed forever.
And when I get to interview Pope Leo XIV from Chicago, I want to know if he watched Laugh In and said, "Here comes the judge." What do you think?
Sock it to him.
Sock it to him. James Lilacs, follow him at lilacs.com or at lilacs.substack.com. I'll be on Hannity tonight, I think with my friend Reince Priebus, so be sure to tune in to Sean. We'll be talking, I think, about Rachel Maddow and hopefully some of what President Trump had to say today Also want to let you know we got a lot ahead the rest of the week. It's August. That means hard news is hard to come back, except terrible news from Israel and its war against the remnants of the Hamas terrorist organization. I've been writing a column today that's trying to funnel my anger at Macron for screwing up the deal and condemning the hostages to the brutal captivity they've endured another month because of this idiocy by the president of France, I think on July 24. But Netanyahu will be announcing that they are going in and they're going to get as many of them as they can by military means, because otherwise they're going to die of starvation. We saw the pictures. More on that tomorrow. Please do go over to Fox News, their opinion page at foxnews.com. I wrote a very long piece today on reforming the Endangered Species Act, and it's possible to do that without congressional action. The President, Secretary Burgum, and the brand new director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Brian Nesvik, they can do a lot to fix this horrible law. And I put it all down. It's 1,500 words, but I urge you to do what you should and read it. I also want to remind you I'm in the Relief Factor studio. I want you to remember, if you've got any kind of minor ache and pain and you're driving home right now, and you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I got 45 more minutes and my back is killing me, or my neck hurts, or my shoulder is just not right. I've got 45 minutes and it's probably going to be an hour and be grumpy when I get home. Doesn't have to be that way. You can take Relief Factor, which is what I do every single day in the first hour of this program. And then I remind you in hours 2 and 3, because I'm in the Relief Factor studio, call 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief. 1-800, the number 4, and the word relief. Or go to their website and find the starter pack for $19.95, a 3-week trial pack, $19.95, less than $1 a day. When you're done with those 3 weeks, 3 packets of Relief Factor on a day for the first week, 2 a day for the second week, 1 a day for the third week. Most of you, by far, 3 out of 4, are going to say this is a wonder thing. And you're going to wonder why you feel so good. It's because of Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com for the starter pack, relieffactor.com. And then finally, please, we're at the end of my asking and the Food for the Poor sponsoring our relief effort for the Hill Country of Texas. You can call right now, 855-359-4673. 855-359-4673. 855-359-4673. It's been a month and a day since the terrible, terrible flood that destroyed Camp Mystic and took the lives of 136 people and destroyed businesses and homes. And some of you have been intending for a month to make a contribution, $50, $100, $500, whatever you can afford. It's tax deductible. The banner at the top of Hugh Hewitt is Help Texas. It will work, or you can call 855-359-4673 right now, 855-359-4673.